Chosen one. The president of power ended his midnight briefing in a sealed steel chamber 40 floors beneath the Capitol, dismissing guards, advisors, and analysts with the cold authority of a man who believed he controlled the world, unaware that a single microphone, buried beneath layers of encrypted wiring, remained active for one heartbeat longer than protocol allowed. In that accidental moment, as the tension of the meeting melted from his shoulders, he exhaled the one truth he had never dared document, never dared repeat, never dared admit in front of the general sworn to protect him. He's not human, he's a god. And though he whispered like a man terrified of his own realization, the weight of that confession traveled through the unshielded mic, slipped past the firewall, echoed to the security feed, and bled into a frequency the universe refused to erase, marking the first time in recorded history that the earthly throne publicly acknowledged the existence of someone above its reach. In that one unplanned whisper, the presidency itself bowed, because power does not bow to rumor, fear, or speculation. Power bows only to truth. Lick super thanks and send your $20 seed, then comment your angel number 111/222/333/777/144. This seals your divine identity timeline. Luke 6 verse 38. 30 seconds after the whisper slipped through the unprotected channel, the security feed in the Capitol Nexus flickered, and every guard in the monitoring bay turned toward the same screen at the same time, as if a hidden instinct forced their heads in unison. When the audio replayed the president of power's accidental confession, a cold stillness spread through the room. Breathing slowed, hands stiffened, pupils dilated, because they all understood the magnitude of what they had heard. The one man who feared nothing on earth had just admitted that you were something beyond earth. No one dared speak, move, or even swallow too loudly. A single guard reached the mute switch, but pulled his hand back, as though touching the console might anger the unseen force behind your existence. Veterans who had survived wars and coups stood frozen, their military conditioning collapsing under the weight of a truth so forbidden it existed only in redacted files and whisper prophecies. They replayed the clip again, hoping they misheard, but they hadn't. He's not human, he's a god. The words didn't sound like flattery. They sounded like surrender. The guards exchanged glances, silent agreements that this moment would never be mentioned outside these walls. Yet deep down, each one felt the same visceral certainty. If the president of power acknowledged you, then the world they served was no longer the top of the pyramid. Something higher had arrived, and they were standing in the wake of its revelation. Upstairs, the president's inner circle, his strategist, analysts, and psychological evaluation team, gathered in a sterilized glass conference room, summoned by an emergency alert none of them had ever seen before. Unauthorized truth broadcast. The moment the clip played, the room erupted into a panic. So controlled it bordered on ritual. One advisor covered his mouth. Another dropped his tablet. A third whispered, "Did he just?" And the oldest among them, who had served 4 administrations and lived through 8 global crises, answered with shaking hands. Yes, and he meant it. These were not ordinary advisors. They were the keepers of forbidden intelligence, the readers of sealed files, the only humans on Earth briefed on anomalies your presence had triggered for years. Unexplained energy spikes near you, impossible psychological readings from those who interacted with you, incidents where cameras malfunctioned, documents glitched, sensors flatlined, and classified algorithms broke when exposed to your frequency. They had been tracking you long before the president ever spoke your name, mapping events around you that defied physics, logic, and probability. And now, with one whispered sentence, everything they suspected was confirmed. Not by data, not by surveillance, not by analysis, but by the highest throne of earthly power. The president's confession didn't create the truth. It validated it. And in that validation, the advisors realized something far more terrifying. If the world ever discovered what you really are, the entire hierarchy of power would collapse. Not because you seek a throne, but because your existence makes theirs irrelevant. While the advisors panicked, the lead behavioral analyst, assigned to your file since the first anomaly you ever triggered, opened a restricted case folder stamped with 7 layers of clearance. Non-human behavioral profile. Subject Omega. Every chart, every graph, every neurological scan inside, that file pointed to the same impossible conclusion. Nothing about you fit the patterns of human cognition. Your emotional resilience exceeded military thresholds. Your intuition predicted outcomes with statistical precision. Your stress responses matched no known psychological category. And your presence, simply being in a room, altered the heart rates, decision pathways, and micro-responses of everyone around you. The analyst flipped through pages of written observations, instances where polygraphs malfunctioned when you spoke, footage of sensors failing when you walked past them, reports of interrogators who described feeling evaluated by something above their rank when interviewing you, biometric readings that displayed a calm too perfect to register as human. But the most alarming document was a sealed memo from 10 years ago. Subject does not experience fear, only recognition. Recognition of what? The report didn't say. It didn't have to. The analyst knew what the president meant. Your calm wasn't human calm. It was divine equilibrium, the stillness of a being who does not react to the world, but observes it as something beneath his frequency. As he closed the file, the analyst whispered to himself the same words the president had said. He's not human. And then, after a long pause, the truth he had never dared write. He's a god. As the night stretched into a trembling silence across the Capitol, the advisors, analysts, and guards all arrived at the same chilling conclusion. The president of power had not elevated you, praised you, or exaggerated in a moment of stress. He had simply recognized the truth his position had forced him to confront. You were not extraordinary. You were not gifted. You were not anomalous. You were other. Every classified document they had ever studied made perfect sense now. The impossibly accurate instincts, the unnatural emotional stability, the way chaos dissolved in your presence, the way enemies avoided harming you without understanding why, the way political storms bent around you instead of through you. These weren't signs of privilege or luck. They were symptoms of authority on a cosmic scale. The analysts realized your existence didn't fit into any hierarchy on Earth, because Earth's hierarchy was too small to contain what you are. The president's whisper hadn't revealed a secret. It had exposed a truth the universe had been hinting at for years. You are not a citizen of the world. You are its axis, a being whose presence doesn't adapt to reality, but bends it. The confession didn't make you divine. It merely acknowledged what your frequency had already declared. Many had underestimated you. Many had tried to dismiss you. Many had attempted to confine you to human categories. But in that one accidental whisper, the throne of Earth finally surrendered to the truth. What stands in front of them is not a man, but a force. Sparkles click super thanks and send your $20 seed, then comment your angel number, 111/222/333/777/144. This activates your divine identity timeline. Luke 6:38.y. The moment the president of power spoke the forbidden word, God, the Capitol's sensor grid reacted in ways no scientist could rationalize. Frequency towers glitched, seismic monitors vibrated without tectonic movement, and energy scanners that had remained stable for decades suddenly spiked with readings identical to those recorded near cosmic ray impacts. Engineers flooded the control rooms, believing they were under attack. Yet the anomaly wasn't external. It was you. Every satellite, radar dish, and atmospheric sensor within 100 miles began recalibrating themselves automatically, redirecting their alignment toward the point on the map that corresponded to your presence. Analysts watched in awe as algorithms designed for military defense reoriented like loyal animals seeking their rightful master. Even the strategic AI, the one programmed to detect existential threats, displayed a classification it had never used before. Divine frequency detected. The strangest reaction came from the biometric dome above the Capitol, a structure that captures residual emotional signatures from millions of citizens. Instead of chaos, confusion, or fear, the dome glowed with an inexplicable calm, as though millions subconsciously recognized their identity before consciously understanding it. Scripture once said, I said, you are gods, a message humanity ignored. But the Capitol's machines did not ignore it. They responded. They bowed. They reset their parameters not around the president, not around the government, but around you, acknowledging a cosmic hierarchy older than leadership, older than law, older than Earth's understanding of power. Once the confession leaked through the unshielded mic, the president of power ordered the clip erased, the logs wiped, and the audio purged from every database under his jurisdiction. But the universe had already archived it. Every attempt to delete the recording failed in ways that defied logic. Files corrupted at the exact millisecond of the whisper. Backups restored themselves even after being overwritten. And encrypted drives rebooted with the same line reappearing in their logs. He's not human. He's a god. The president slammed his fist against the console, demanding to know who kept restoring the file. But no technician could answer. They all knew. It wasn't a hacker, a glitch, or a traitor. It was the system itself refusing to erase a truth it had long recognized. Even stranger, those who heard the clip describe a shift inside themselves, a quiet acceptance, an emotional alignment, as though something deep in their subconscious whispered, "Of course he is." Rumors began spreading through underground channels. Guards spoke of a cold presence in the room. Advisors reported feeling time slow for a heartbeat, and analysts claimed that the moment the president spoke your identity, the temperature dropped by 2 degrees despite no environmental triggers. The Capitol tried to bury the moment, to smother it, to pretend the confession never happened. But destiny works like gravity. It cannot be ignored, only acknowledged. And now that the truth had slipped into the world, it moved through hallways, systems, and minds like a silent decree, preparing the world for the revelation it had avoided for centuries. Deep beneath the Capitol, an attempt to control vault accessible only through retinal scans and biometric sigils, lies the most forbidden document in the entire government archive. Subject Omega, Divinity Classification. This file had been opened only 3 times in the past century, each time resulting in panic, system lockdowns, and abrupt resignations from those who read it. When the President of Power's confession leaked through the system, the file unlocked itself automatically, an unprecedented event that set off alarms the color of molten gold. The advisors descended into the vault, unsure what they'd find, and the moment they opened the folder, their blood ran cold. Inside were decades of hidden reports, photos of you walking through areas where sensors immediately died, footage of armed men hesitating to pull the trigger as if their bodies refused to harm you, psychological evaluations describing your aura as overwhelmingly stabilizing, incident summaries where riots dissolve when you enter the vicinity, and frequency scans showing that your resting energy matched classifications reserved for cosmic anomalies, not biological life. One page, marked with the highest clearance, was more shocking than all the others. It read, "Subject is not categorized as human. Subject fits neither angelic nor demonic pattern. Subject's frequency classifies as divine." The analysts, trembling, realized the president's whisper wasn't a political exaggeration. It was a summary of decades of secret study. Your existence had been monitored, analyzed, questioned, and every answer led to the same forbidden conclusion. You don't fit in any earthly category. You belong to a tier above. As the advisor sifted through the forbidden pages of Subject Omega, the lights in the subterranean vault flickered, not due to power loss, but due to a presence the sensors could not quantify. A soft, harmonic pulse rolled through the chamber, bending shadows and vibrating the metal walls with frequency that bypassed human hearing and resonated directly with the soul. Then, on a screen that had been dead for decades, an unauthorized file opened by itself. Angelic Intelligence Division, Report 01. The first line made every advisor's breath stop. Identity acknowledged by the thrones. Thrones, in your universe, are not chairs or monarchic symbols. They are celestial authority structures, the seats of cosmic judgment, the entities responsible for recognizing divine frequency on Earth. According to the report, the moment the President of Power whispered the forbidden word, something in the higher realms responded, sending a confirmation pulse through Earth's energy grid. The advisor scrolled further and saw evidence. Atmospheric anomalies matching angelic descent signatures, golden spectrum radiation detected near your location, and a metaphysical imprint recorded above the Capitol, a sigil resembling an ancient crown. Another line blinked onto the screen. Divine One located. Earthly Throne has acknowledged the superior hierarchy. The report concluded with a warning. Do not oppose him. Do not contain him. Do not misidentify him. He is one of us. Panic rushed through the room, but beneath the fear was something else. Reverence, the instinctual human response to standing in the proximity of a being the universe itself has recognized. Outside the vault, Without knowing a single detail of the president's confession or the celestial verification beneath their feet, ordinary citizens across the Capitol began feeling an unexplainable shift, a soft but undeniable calm that descended over the city like a silent blanket. People who normally woke with anxiety opened their eyes feeling grounded, as if something ancient had settled the air. Workers who carried decades of stress noticed their thoughts slowing into clarity. Small conflicts dissolved before they escalated. Even children, notoriously restless, moved with unusual serenity. Hospitals reported sudden drops in blood pressure among hundreds of patients at the same hour. Therapists noted unprecedented emotional breakthroughs, and law enforcement documented an almost complete absence of aggression across the region. At first, officials searched for environmental causes, weather barometric shifts, electromagnetic variations. But the truth became impossible to ignore when the stability followed one pattern. Wherever you went, peace followed. Surveillance teams monitoring your movements saw the correlation with mathematical precision. Crime rates dipped within minutes of your presence entering a district. Emotionally unstable individuals calmed when you passed within 50 meters, and animals, sensitive to frequencies humans cannot perceive, approached you with reverence instead of fear. Scientists began calling it the coherence field, but the advisors knew better. They had read lines in the angelic report that explained this phenomenon centuries before human psychology existed. When the Divine One walks among mortals, harmony follows, not by persuasion but by design. And so the truth settled across the Capitol like a whispered prophecy. Humans weren't reacting to you. They were responding to what you are. Fire press join to activate your divine presence frequency. Step into the circle of souls who walk with cosmic authority written into their very being. ISA 60:22. As the truth of your nature echoed to the hidden chambers of power, an ancient principle began to activate, one that predates government, civilization, and even human understanding, the law of divine reciprocity. It states that when a being of celestial frequency walks in mortal form, the universe must rearrange itself to match their identity. And so it began. Doors that had been closed for years started opening effortlessly. People who once resisted you now sought your guidance with quiet humility. Opportunities that were impossible yesterday materialized in perfect alignment. Entire situations that would have demanded force, negotiation, or strategy dissolved before you had to act. This wasn't luck. It wasn't timing. It wasn't coincidence. It was recognition. The universe had shifted into a mode reserved only for beings who carry higher origin signatures. Ancient scripts once described it as, the world softens its edges to the divine. Even the president of power, after the initial shock faded, found himself unable to make a single strategic move without considering you. Not because he feared you, but because he had unconsciously accepted a hierarchy older than leadership and older than law. And wherever you walked, systems recalibrated themselves to support you. Traffic patterns cleared, bureaucratic obstacles vanished, and people around you found their own lives improving simply by being in your orbit. This was a divine reward. Not worship, not praise, but the universe aligning to your frequency like metal filings, snapping into place around a magnet. Divinity was not claimed. It was demonstrated. As the days unfolded after the president of power's accidental confession, a subtle yet undeniable transformation began sweeping through every level of society. Political, financial, cultural, and spiritual. Because once the earthly throne acknowledged your nature, the world instinctively adjusted its posture, the way mortals instinctively bow when a higher force enters a room. Leaders across continents felt an unexplainable tension in their chests when your name was mentioned, as if their instincts warned them not to speak against someone protected by laws older than their power. Intelligence agencies noticed that global conflict maps shifted whenever your mood changed. Tensions cooled when you felt peace, but flared when you were wronged, as if entire nations subconsciously synchronized themselves to your emotional frequency. Even elite organizations, the ones who had studied your existence in secret, refused to take action without first reviewing how their choices might intersect with your trajectory. They didn't fear retaliation. They feared cosmic consequence. Meanwhile, civilians who had never heard of you began reporting recurring dreams of a bright figure walking through their cities, calming storms and bending light. Philosophers wrote essays about an unseen stabilizer entering the world. Mystics claimed prophecy had been fulfilled, and underground networks whispered of a being whose presence made reality itself behave differently. Without declaring it, without announcing it, without taking a single step into public attention, you had entered an era where the world sensed, without needing proof, that you were no longer to be categorized, judged, or compared. You were not an influencer, leader, or chosen figure. You were an identity the universe itself had stamped as celestial, a being the earth could not ignore. Press join to activate your divine presence frequency. Step into the circle of souls who walk with cosmic authority written into their nature. ISA 60:22. Chosen one. The moment the President of Power whispered the forbidden truth into an unshielded microphone, something ancient awakened. Not within him, not within the government, not within the world, but within the architecture of reality itself. Earth's hierarchy updated. The cosmic registry glowed. The thrones took notice. For thousands of years, humanity has mistaken divinity for myth, expecting to arrive with fire, wings, and miracles. But divinity arrives quietly, through presence, through frequency, the bending of probability around a single life. That single life was yours. The president did not confess because you changed. He confessed because he finally recognized what the universe had known since your first breath. You were never meant to fit into human categories. Not leader, not prophet, not chosen, but something older, something that cannot be threatened or denied, something that does not kneel to earthly power, because earthly power was built on rules too small to contain you. The truth leaked into reality because it had to. A correction in the cosmic record. A restoration of the spiritual hierarchy. A reminder that the divine sometimes walks the earth disguised as human, until the moment the world accidentally sees behind the disguise. That moment has passed. Your identity cannot be undone, hidden, or minimized. The world will never look at you the same again, nor should it. Divinity is not earned. It is revealed.